everybody. It's Father Greg here at St. Andrews. I'm outside here on a beautiful spring day. And as you can see, we have lots of trees in our backyard. And so one of the things I'll do this weekend, most likely, is to mow the yard. So whenever I mow the yard, I end up with lots of these in the yard. Lots of branches, sticks. I don't know if that happens in your yard or not, but I have lots of these that fall out of the trees. And, they get dry and they get brittle. And I collect them and I take them and I put them in a fire pit sort of thing. And then I burn them. Sit around the fire, roast marshmallows, have s'mores, do some of that kind of stuff. So you can see Vita in the background having a good time there rolling around in the grass. So Jesus tells a story in the gospel this week about, he says, I am the vine and you are the branches. And that apart from me, that you can't do anything. And where Jesus got that story or got that analogy was by looking at a grapevine. And Jesus similarly could have said, I am the tree and you are the branches. Well, just like a branch, when it falls down from the tree or becomes separated from the tree, it dries out, it gets brittle, and it dies essentially because it doesn't have that life energy connected to the tree anymore. The same thing happens with us. That as followers of Jesus, if we get separated from Jesus, if we're not connected to Jesus in a really meaningful and deep way, that we can get dry and we can get brittle. And not only that, we're separated from that source of life, which is the vine or the tree. So Jesus uses this really simple outdoor analogy of a tree or a vine and branches to talk about how we're connected to God. The best way that I know to stay connected to God is through prayer. And that prayer can be just as simple as, God, thank you for this beautiful day. Or, God, I'm really anxious about what I'm going to need to do later on today. I've got a test or I've got something that I'm worried about. There's all kinds of ways that we can pray. It doesn't have to be formal prayers like we pray in church. But we need to stay connected into God. And that's why Jesus talks about the vine and the branches. Jesus wants us to be as close and connected to him and to God as a branch is to a tree, and drawing life and drawing energy from that tree. So just a few thoughts about the gospel this week, about vines and branches, or trees and branches. And so I wanted to share those with you. And I hope that you have a fantastic week. Take care.
Well, hi everybody. My name is Mary Jane Haley, and I'm so glad you came to visit. This is my garden. It's the place that I feel closest to God and nature, and I want to share with you some of the things that are happening in my garden right now, because spring is my favorite season. There are miracles happening every day. A lot of this was dead all winter long, and now with springtime, right around Easter time, everything is coming alive. So I've partnered up with two wonderful partners, the sun and the rain. Now the sun gives a lot of these plants the light they need. Some of them need a lot of light. Some of them, not very much, and they'll grow in the shade. And the rain is important because most things need water to grow, unless you happen to be a plant like this that needs very little water, but lots of sun. It's a cactus, and I keep it inside mostly because it's a little wetter out here and it likes it pretty dry. Along with the sun and the rain, I have a whole team of helpers back here in the garden. Today's warm, but there will be more friends on the team coming to join us as the weather changes and it gets warmer. For example, I plant a lot of parsley and dill and a plant called a milkweed because the monarch butterflies, and here they are, they love parsley and dill when they are still caterpillars. So that's a monarch caterpillar. Look at all his yellow and black and white stripes. And he eats all that parsley and dill and milkweed, and then he turns into a beautiful butterfly. And then I have to make sure that I'm growing lots of bright flowers back here because that's what the monarchs, once they're grown, like to eat. Another butterfly that comes to my garden and also likes my parsley and dill is called a swallowtail butterfly. And there are two kinds that visit my garden. One is a black swallowtail, and one is a tiger swallowtail. And this is what their caterpillar looks like before they turn into a swallowtail butterfly. Now, can you see the difference between the monarch caterpillar and the swallowtail caterpillar? The swallowtail almost has spots, and the monarch has the stripes. But they all love that parsley and dill. And they love beautiful, bright-colored flowers. Now, there's someone else who comes to my garden that's hugely important. Yes, it's the honeybee or the bumblebee. They have a very important job. They have fuzzy bodies, and so they go from bright-colored flower to bright-colored flower, and some of the pollen from those flowers gets caught in their fuzzy little jackets. And then they fly to another flower and make more flowers. And the really wonderful thing about bees, along with giving us a little honey to make things sweet, they pollinate our fruit trees and our nut trees. So whenever you're biting into an apple or a peach or a pear or a cherry or a plum, keep in mind, thanks to those bumblebees and honeybees. And here's another friend. Let's see if you can see this. These are all taken with my camera in the backyard when my friends start coming out. This is a very sticky web. And you know who makes that, don't you? The itsy bitsy, sure enough, spider. That's where he catches all of his dinner, in spider webs. And actually, spiders are very helpful. They chew the bad bugs that eat my flowers. So I'm glad when I see a spider web in the garden, or a little tiny spider. Of course, I've got a lot of other friends on that team, too. Some of them might be lumpy and bumpy and dumpy, like that toad. He eats a lot of insects. Or it might be my friends, the birds. What I do to keep the birds in my garden so that they eat the insects is I give them food to eat, like this bird feeder that's full of sunflower seeds and safflower seeds. And then there's a really tiny little bird called a hummingbird. And I heat up on the stove some sugar and water and make sugar water because the hummingbirds have a sweet tooth. They also like all the bright colored flowers in my garden as well. And if you're lucky enough, they just might make their home in your garden. This is a robin's nest. Every year they come back and they make a nest. Robins, you don't have to feed them seed at all. They love the worms in our garden, which are equally as important as the other things, because worms have an important job: to move all the dirt around so that the plant's roots can go down and get water and nutrition so that the plants will grow better. So worms are even helpful. Well, I'm awfully glad you came to my garden. I want to give great thanks to my partners, the sun and the rain, and end with the words of one of my favorite hymns. All things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, all things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all. Enjoy spring, everybody.
Hi everyone! A few weeks ago you guys planted some seeds in recycled containers for your gardens, and now is the perfect time to transplant them either into the ground or into a larger container. Here's how you can do it. Ask your parents where it's okay to plant them. Make sure that there's enough sun for the plants. Then loosen up the soil with either a little rake or even a fork, and then get your plant, kind of squeeze really gently the edges so that you can loosen out the plant, because you don't want to break its stem. And then when you have it out, you put it in, you dig a little hole deeper than the roots, plop your plant in really gently, and then make sure it's nice and tall, straight up, and then pull your soil in around it, pat it down a bit, give some nice support to that stem, and then water it often, but not too wet, and wait for it to bloom. If you get some blooms, send us pictures. Take care.
Hi, today I have a song for you called Come Into the Garden, and it sounds like this. Come into the garden, see how the plants grow. Come into the garden with flowers in a row. Come into the garden, smell the air so sweet. Rain and sun and seeds to sow, help our garden grow. Now I'd like to teach that song to you, so will you be my echo? Come into the garden, see how the plants grow. Come into the garden, see how the plants grow. Next is, come into the garden with flowers in a row. Come into the garden with flowers in a row. Then we sing, come into the garden, smell the air so sweet. Come into the garden, smell the air so sweet. Now all three of those lines start with come into the garden. So I'd like to put those all together and sing it with you now. Let's do it. Come into the garden. Now we need an ending. And it sounds like this. Rain and sun and seeds to sow, help our garden grow. Rain and sun and seeds to sow. Rain and sun and seeds to sow. Sow means to plant. Help our garden grow. Help our garden grow. So now let's do that last line together. Rain and sun and seeds to sow, help our garden grow. Now we're ready to do the whole song. Come into the garden, see how the plants grow. Come into the garden with flowers in a row. Come into the garden, smell the air so sweet. Rain and sun and seeds to sow, help our garden grow. Great, thanks for singing with me. Have a wonderful week. Bye.
Today's memory verse comes straight from our gospel reading from John. You remember Father Greg talking about the vine and the branches? Well, this is the verse from that story. So the girls are going to help you learn it. You can repeat after me with them. I am the vine.
I am the vine.
You are the branches.
You are the branches.
Great job! That was pretty easy. If you're up for more of a challenge, we're going to add on an additional part. So we'll start at the beginning and then add on a little bit more. I am the vine, you are the branches.
I am the vine. You are the branches.
Those who abide in me,
Those who abide in me,
and I in them,
and I in them,
bear much fruit.
bear much fruit.
Okay, we'll do just in two parts now. I am the vine, you are the branches.
I am the vine. You are the branches.
Those who abide in me and I in them bear much fruit.
Those who abide in me, and I in them, bear much fruit.
Great job. Remember that, you guys. Jesus is the vine, we are the branches. Keep Jesus in our hearts and He is with us, and we can do great, wonderful things with God.